Well, there was a temporary Sunday school teacher who was struggling to open a combination lock on the supply cabinet. And she had been told the combination, but she couldn't remember it. So finally, she went to the pastor's study and asked for help. And the pastor came into the room and began to turn the dial. And after the first two numbers, he paused and stared blankly for a moment. And finally, he looked serenely heavenward, and his lips moved. And then he looked back at the lock and quickly turned to the final number and opened it. And the teacher was amazed. "I'm in awe of your faith, Pastor," she said. "It's really nothing," he answered. "The number is on a piece of tape on the ceiling." Oh. So here we are, and we have been exploring this entire month in depth, the teachings of Jesus. And up until this point, we've been delving into his parables. And I hope it's been valuable for you. I was sharing with someone this morning that, being a good old Southern Baptist girl, I was raised on the Gospels and on the Bible, and, I've really gone through a movement and transformation with my relationship with the Bible since that time. And it's been really fun to dive into the Bible in this way because, in Unity, we don't focus on the literal interpretation of the Bible. We take it deeper. And for me, my intention of ever using the Bible is to relate it to our lives today. It's what we call the maieutic interpretation. What does it mean to me? And so hopefully over the last few weeks, you've gleaned some wisdom from Jesus's wisdom. And so today, I wanted to explore a healing story with you. And it's found in Matthew and Luke, but I took the version from Matthew. And it's the healing of the centurion's servant. So you ready? We'll dive in? Okay, so Jesus had entered Capernaum. A centurion came to him asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly." Jesus said to him, "Shall I come and heal him?" And the centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, 'Go,' and he goes, and that one, 'Come,' and he comes. And I say to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." And when Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, "Truly, I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." And then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And his servant was healed at that moment. Okay. So I want to give you some background on a centurion, who they were during that time, and how odd this was for a centurion to approach Jesus in this way. A centurion was a professional Roman soldier of high rank, and centurions had to be literate because they had to be able to read written orders. They had connections in order to be recommended to the position. They had to be at least 30 years old and have already served a few years in the military. The centurion was the commander of a centuria, which was the smallest unit of a Roman legion, which meant a centurion commanded about 80 men, but as they became more seasoned, they could command more. And centurions formed the backbone of the legion and were responsible personally for the training and discipline of the legionnaires under their command. They had a reputation for harsh punishment. So they were given a lot of power and authority. So here's this professional Roman soldier approaching Jesus because his servant is dying. Now, for him to care that his servant is dying is an oddity. And notice the centurion did not go into a story about what was happening or what had happened to the servant. It didn't really matter. He didn't even directly ask Jesus for a healing. So Jesus had to say, do you want him to be healed? And immediately the mighty centurion goes into a very surrendered and humble place in the presence of Jesus as he begins to explain himself, his authority on the earth plane. I tell the soldiers, do this, go. I tell them to come, they come. I tell them to do, and they do. And what seemed to be happening was that he was realizing as he spoke that he was wanting something that couldn't be accomplished in the same way that he did his life every day. He was aware that he couldn't just command a healing because he was powerful in the earth plane. He realized it was beyond him to do that. He couldn't do it from that place of ego and intellect and might and power. And Jesus really saw that. Because, it kind of felt like a leap. Here is this centurion just saying, this is my power. And then Jesus was like, wow, what faith. It's like, where did he get that? Because Jesus realized the centurion's power that had been given to him in the earth plane. And all of a sudden, he was coming to him in such a humble and surrendered and vulnerable way, acknowledging that I can't do this of my own might and power. It was huge for the soldier to have this shift, and Jesus got it. So what's ours to take from this? Well, what came to me is how many of us can relate to trying to put our authority, our power, our faith in the external world when we want a healing or when we want something to be different in our life? Where do we turn first? And please, 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 do not hear that if you are desiring a physical healing, that I'm saying don't go to a doctor first, or please don't hear that, or medicine. It's not that. What I am just asking us, me, is where are we first putting our authority and power? To be healed, to be happy, to have a new possibility express in our life, to have love show up in our life. Where are we looking first? Because I'm looking at the example of the centurion, and I am seeing him rebuke the outer authority he had been given, and instead put his faith in the Christ, represented by Jesus. And Jesus always represents in a story the Christ consciousness. Okay? Our divinity, that's what we are. So he was recognizing that the healing authority had to come from that place, not from out here, see. The foundation of every healing that we have, folks, is our claiming of the infinite wholeness that we are. It starts first here, because then we open the way for whatever outer resources can support us, right? So what the centurion represents is our own surrender to claiming what's true that's not grounded in external power, to putting our faith out here. See, transformation happens not from might, but surrender, making things happen. We try to navigate in life, we try to make things happen. How's that working for us? And that doesn't mean we're not savvy people and we're not smart people and we can make things happen. And we do. But what the lesson is in this story, I just remember this Old Testament from Zechariah that says, not by might nor by power, but by the Spirit. See, healing is spiritual work, folks. It's spiritual work, regardless of what it is. If it's physical, emotional, financial, it's inner work. It calls us to let go of the past. A healing can show up in many ways, as we know, right? An expanded viewpoint, a new understanding, a new possibility expressing in our life. But I believe the foundation of all healings happens as a result of where we're putting our faith. A new possibility happening is from opening to our inner power, our inner knowing. And when we do that, we experience the kingdom of heaven. And notice Jesus one more time talks about the kingdom of heaven. And he goes, many will come to the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, meaning people are going to come to the feast thinking that they know. They know what's true according to the external world. Throwing names around, I know what's true. But what he's saying is that they'll be thrown outside into the darkness where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. In other words, we will not experience the kingdom of heaven. We'll be pretty dang miserable when we live from our egos and our intellects alone. That's what he means, I think. And remember, this is coming through my filters. So the centurion modeled letting go of our worldly self-identity, our power and authority, who we think we are, and instead put his faith in what was true. And so I found a story about a young Air Force captain during the Vietnam War. And his squad jumped from a helicopter near Hang Seng. And almost immediately, the captain saw a live grenade on the ground near his crew. And instinct prompted him to throw it out of harm's way. But as he took the grenade in his hand, it exploded, severing his right arm and both of his legs. And the captain survived a gradual physical recovery, but his inner spiritual healing came much more slowly. And he agonized over his future. He would lie in his bed, agonizing. Could he make peace with himself? Could someone with just a left arm and a torso find fulfillment and meaning and purpose in his life? And one night in the hospital, the young captain had a spiritual experience. He opened up his heart, and he described what he said felt like an infusion of unconditional love. And in that moment, he had an aha. He realized that his brains, his ability to think, were not in his legs or his arms, but in his head. And he still had that. And he remembered that he had a sturdy heart, along with the ability and desire to believe in something greater than himself. He realized he could renew his faith in himself and in life and its possibilities, that was still what he could do. And the message that he got was never, 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 never give up. So the power of this spiritual experience impacted the rest of his life. This soldier's name is Max Cleland, and the day would come when he would be wheeled into the Oval Office of the White House, administered an oath by the president, and named Administrator of the Department of Veterans Affairs. And when his appointment came for confirmation before the Senate, it received a cheering, standing ovation without one dissenting vote. And Max Cleland has gone on to accomplish many things, yet none of them would have been possible without his shift in where he was putting his faith. Not in what had happened to him, but in what could be. In infinite possibilities. Letting go and putting our faith in what's possible. See, he modeled what the centurion modeled, I think. We don't give power to the outer world to determine what can unfold for us. We claim who we are, what we are. And there's just one little thing I wanted to mention about this story too. Because Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would be." And his servant was healed at that moment. Well, the servant was not contacted. You notice that? Yeah. So in the healing process, the servant wasn't exactly asked if he wanted to be healed. So I just want to just put that out there, that none of us, regardless of how much faith we hold with someone, has the authority to force someone to be healed. That as much as we might want it for someone, we cannot force someone to be healed. I don't have the ability to heal you whether you want me to or not, or I don't have the ability to say you don't have the consciousness to be healed. That's not my business. It's not our business. We only have the authority to hold knowing with someone. We can always hold knowing with someone, and that's what your prayer chaplains do every week when they pray with you after service. They hold knowing with you because there's that with you, because faith is one of your 12 powers. It's an aspect of your divinity that is the truth of you, and we get to activate that. It's always present. And so if you are in claiming and desiring a healing in your life, you can ask your loved ones, ask your prayer chaplain, ask me, ask anyone in this community to hold knowing with you. That's what we can do. So, okay. So we celebrate the wisdom of Jesus. We are grateful for that. And we look beyond the literal interpretation of Scripture, regardless of what we hear outside of these walls. And we always ask, if you read the Bible, I don't know if you do, it's not something that we force here in Unity. We use the Bible as a resource to support our teachings, to know the truth of what we are and what's possible for us. There's always truth in stories that we can relate to, I believe. And so this week, regarding this story, I just invite you to reflect on where you, me, we are giving our authority to heal, to be happy, to embrace a new possibility. Is it in the outer? Is it in the ego? Are you trying to make something happen and you're just not having it happen? So, what if we could shift? And what if we could release in order for us to surrender and put our faith in what's really true? What's really true is that you are divine, you are whole, you are beautiful, you're amazing. And so what if we could put our faith there? That's the opportunity that we have, I believe. Okay, so let's take a deep breath. And let's affirm together. My faith paves the way to know all that I am and all that I can be. And so it is. Bless you.